Hi, everybody. This is Charles Bass from the USD Alumni Association. Our team is working remotely and finding new ways to keep alumni engaged with the university. One way we are doing this is through a podcast and Zoom interview series called USD Chats with Charles. Through these interviews, we are connecting with alumni who are doing important work in San Diego and beyond. And many of us are trying to figure out a new way of doing business and just living our everyday lives while we are dealing with these stay-at-home orders. Today's guest, however, is right in the middle of the COVID-19 battle. She is Natalie Garcia Markuson, a graduate of USD's class of 2012 and a nurse at Sharp Grossmont Hospital. Natalie, thank you for the very important work you do, and it's wonderful to visit with you today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Awesome experience to talk with fellow alumni and current students.
All right. Well, a quick bio of Natalie. She was a business administration major at USD and played soccer. She was a standout captain for the Toreros and played for the Mexico national team in the 2011 FIFA Women's World Cup. After graduating from USD, she pursued a nursing degree at the University of Arizona, and she and her husband, Cody, both work at Sharp Grossmont Hospital in La Mesa, and both work on a wing dedicated to COVID-19 patients. Natalie, first and foremost, how are you doing?
Doing well, actually. Considering what's going on with our society, nation, and world, it's definitely been a turn for events. A lot of changes going on in our community, and even personally with our own families. But for what it's worth, we're doing really well and very supported. So I think that's what's been helping a lot.
That's great. These are certainly chaotic times, and I think it's safe to say that no one has been more impacted than our healthcare workers. So how has your life changed in the past few weeks?
Well, there's been probably one of the biggest change in my nursing career. I've been a nurse for about 4.5 years now, and this whole pandemic has totally changed the way we work at the hospital. From even our arrivals, they will screen us. We have to wait in long lines before we can start our shifts, to just working on these units with patients that are positive for the coronavirus. And then as a nurse, with the thought of, there's no cure, there's not a lot of hard sound evidence on how to fix patients. It's kind of like a waiting game and hoping they don't get sick and deteriorate. And as a nurse going into these rooms and in the back of your head, I hope all my PPE is on correctly. I hope it's all working as you are helping these patients take their medicines, as you are doing their daily care, as you are face to face and a couple inches away. We have these thoughts going in the back of our heads more so than our usual patients months ago, where we didn't have this kind of fear in the back of our head. But there's a lot of changes. I mean, I could talk about it for a long time, but I think the biggest thing is, it's as our nation's scientists and world scientists are trying to figure out how to cure, how to help ease symptoms and all that. I think a lot of us nursing and doctors are holding our breath as we go to work every day and go home and hope we cleaned everything off and we don't share it amongst our loved ones.
Yeah, that's particularly challenging, I'm sure. If I go to the grocery store, I wonder about that person over there. They're not wearing a mask. Should I be worried about them? But you walk into these rooms knowing, in fact, that this person has tested positive, and it's just it's a testament to your spirit that you're continuing to do this. So how is it with you and your husband both working on the same floor? Do you have the same shift, or do you just give a wave every once a day when you see each other? How does that work?
We do.
How is that working?
We do. We have our shifts together, which is nice. And I'm sure everyone's seen videos of kind of what the PPE looks like. There's different versions. They have the N95 masks, but then in the hospital, we also throw on goggles, then we throw on a face shield, and then we throw on our big gowns. We just look like almost astronauts walking around in the unit. There's even the PAPR machines where you have the big bubble hood and you hook it up to the vacuum and you can't hear anything. You just kind of have to wave and do hand signals of what you need when you're in the room. Right. It's kind of chaotic, or you don't recognize each other, but
I was gonna say you might be working with him, but not know it's him.
exactly. But yeah, it's so true. If anything, working with my husband, it's almost like I know I have a safety check. If anyone, and luckily I work with some of the best coworkers. A lot of them are best friends. So it's almost like we have a family regardless. So I feel so safe and so supported, but knowing my husband's there too, I mean, how unbiased of a love do I have there at work to make sure I'm doing everything okay. And also just like a support system. Like if things do start to seem a little scary in the sense that every day, I swear there's a different change in policy. There's a new change. There's, the CDC saying, oh, handkerchiefs are going to be okay to wear. It's just all these weird changes. And it's just because so much is unknown.
Right.
So a lot of us in the healthcare field, when we hear these things, it really puts fear in our head, in our heart that, we would hope that our system is looking out for us and making sure that we'll be safe and healthy. So when we hear these changes, sometimes we get a little frightened of our own health and well-being. So it's always nice that I have, Cody there with me, because he's there. He's in the trenches with me. He understands the fears that I'm going through. So it's not me coming home and, venting to him. I mean, since day one, since we've gotten married and worked on the same unit, it's been great. But even more so now during these trials in the healthcare field. So
we hear these stories of healthcare workers going home and sleeping in the basement so that they don't potentially infect their loved ones. But the fact that you're both in this fight together, that has to be a little more reassuring.
It is true. I've a lot of coworkers actually that have newborns, 1 to 2 year old kids. That's what they're doing. They're sleeping in the garages. Their family has makeshift a little bedroom there in their garages, and it's really hard for a lot of the nurses I work with. Luckily for me and Cody, we don't have any children, so, and we both, if he has it, if he gets infected, I'm infected, vice versa. So we kind of live in a blissful home right now.
Yeah, let's hope and pray that doesn't happen. I know we hear about shortages of equipment and just overwhelming workloads. Have you felt like you've been impacted by that?
I have to say, my unit has one of the best managers I think I've ever have worked for, nor could imagine. And in our hospital, there is a shortage. Hands down, there's a shortage of equipment. They've changed our abilities to get masks that we've had on hand any other time, where we can just use it, toss it. No one's shaking a finger, no one's shaking the head. So there is a shortage, but with our manager and her support, and she somehow has made it so her education, it just seems like, for some reason, it seems like we're okay with our supplies on our floor. Yes, we have to limit the times we have to change out our mask and toss it. They are putting in systems that they're cleaning the N95s. I think right now they're trying a sterilization method with some temperatures. They're trying out a lot of little things, which, that's what's going on in our own nation. But I think what it comes down to is our leader or our manager has been so supportive and making sure that we feel safe, that she lets us use what we need to use without us, saying, what, this is a dirty mask, but you have to keep using it, with a whip or anything. And she's been really, really supportive with us on that floor. So
that's
I felt
great.
Pretty safe.
That's good to hear. How do you think your fellow alumni can help with this crisis? Any suggestions?
Honestly, I think what's been as we can see, if you guys have been following the news, we're starting to flatten the curve. And a lot of that is through us staying at home, really going out only for the necessary grocery stuff and trying to limit it to one store, grab all and go home. We've seen this curve starting to flatten out. And as at the hospital, we're preparing for massive patient surges. We haven't seen the surges yet. And that has been amazing. The amount of prep we've been doing, it seems like doomsday, what they're trying to teach us. And we've actually, our unit, our nurses are cross-training into the ICU too, in case we need to help with the ICU nurses. So we're seeing this curve start to flatten. And again, people have been listening. They've been staying within their means, not visiting their loved ones, which is probably one of the hardest. Going to the grocery stores and being very, very safe on what they're picking, what they're touching, wearing their masks at the grocery store so they're not also spreading out their germs. I think really just doing peer checks too. Like I have a lot of buddies who they keep saying, we're staying at home for you, Nat. I'm trying to educate my own family as well, because it's like a ripple effect. If one person doesn't listen and they happen to go out, then they can, contaminate, or they can contract the virus as well, or they can spread it, and it's like a 10 times fold. So just their word of mouth and their ability to spread also the education it's been really helpful, I feel like.
Good.
And hand hygiene.
Yes. Stay at home and wash your hands and wash your hands and wash your hands.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it's good to have to know that you feel like you're getting supported and that people are recognizing the importance of staying home, not just for themselves, but for others in their community as well. Here's an important question for pop culture fans. Did you get to meet Lizzo?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Did she come to your hospital or just send food?
She just sent food.
Okay.
But how cool is that? I know. It's so cool. But not even just with Lizzo. I cannot tell you how much support our city has been. It's just been, honestly, it's like overwhelming love that we've been seeing being outpoured to not just Grossmont, but all our hospitals. I've had previous high school teachers reach out to me. That one of them owned a pizza shop. They wanted to donate. We've had so many staff members with families that work in restaurants. It's just so amazing. If anything, if there's a silver lining in all this, I feel like it's really brought our county together, and it's really brought out true colors in a lot of our businesses and just like support. So Lizzo is awesome, don't get me wrong, but all our other businesses here too. I can't even start to give thanks to so many of these small businesses who are struggling, and they're still outpouring love to the healthcare workers. So it's been really awesome.
Any other inspiration just in the last few weeks?
Yes. I'm going to try and see how I don't want to give out any patient info. I'll just say, when this all started, one of our first patients that we had at our hospital, and this is why that virus is pretty scary, is because it can attack anyone, any age, and even without any comorbidities. And that's exactly what this patient was. He was a young patient, healthy, athletic. You would think of him as a healthy individual who would have never gone sick, lives in his hundreds. He was one of our first patients who came to the hospital, got so sick he had to go to the ICU, and it didn't look good. And since he was our first patient, he was very much in the eyes of all of us, like, how's he doing? How's he doing? Is he turning the corner? And with a long time, eventually he did turn the corner. He actually came down to our unit. So we got to take care of him. He was no more on the ventilator. He was back to being healthy-ish. And we eventually discharged him home. And he was our first discharge with the coronavirus. And when, as a hospital, when we all saw this turn for him for the better, if anything, that gave us a lot of hope that, you know what, as bad as things can look, people can recover. And it was just such a pleasure to be part of the crew that we got to send them home, and the smiles that they see on their faces. And then on another note too, all the patients that we do have there, we have a policy right now, and this is probably the hardest thing for a lot of families and patients, is there's no visitors. Absolutely no visitors can come, for obvious reasons. And so families call in, they check in all the time, very worried. And so what we do, we'll group our care. So as a nurse, we try not to go in this room very often, but we'll group our care. We'll get the phone ready as well. And we will give the patients the phone. Some of them, they can't hold the phone on their own. So we can actually, while we're doing work, we'll have them do a quick phone call with their family, and just to see their faces light up is just, I think that is what puts the cherry on the top on what we do, is just seeing them bring a little hope, a little happiness of just hearing their loved ones on the phone, for both sides, for family at home that can't come visit, and then the patient who's stuck for about 2 weeks or more not being able to see their families. So that is got to be heartwarming for you, and it's great to hear of that patient's discharge, and hopefully many others will follow him too. So let's pivot a little bit. As you know, we're all dealing with this crisis in our own ways. We hear a lot about self-care. So what are you doing in your downtime? Are you or should I ask what you're binge watching? Let's see. Well, binge watching all the time, nothing's changed with it. The Office. Okay. Love The Office. That's always on. I think we watched the whole series multiple times, but that's usually what I have on. And also right now, Little Fires Everywhere, with Reese Witherspoon. Amazing. Probably more of a girl show for all the girls out there. And then where we live actually we live pretty far from Grossmont. We live up in Fallbrook. So we have so many trails, so much open land. So we take our dog, because she's a German Shepherd, so we can't have her cooped up for too long, or else we will have destruction on our hands. So we'll actually take her out on some of these trails, and it's really nice because it's so open that there's hardly anybody. Maybe we'll see one person off to the side, but we'll be able to still get our nature. And that's really the biggest self-care for me and my husband, is outdoors and nature. So we try and safely go out when we can.
Obviously, USD was an important place to you. You're very appropriately dressed today. Do you have a favorite memory you can share from your time at Alcala Park?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Just one.
I know, just one, man. Well, first one that does come up to my head, which senior year, hands down. See, freshman year was awesome too, but senior year, I just want to say that soccer season, especially when we played in the finals for WCC and won. I mean, that it's almost like all my years finally led up to that with my best friends and my sisters. And it happened to be on ESPN too. They broadcast that game, so it was just cherry on the top. But God, no, we had some fun practices, our trips that we traveled to, our away games, our team dinners. A lot of it was with soccer. Yeah, I mean, love my. This is pretty much like my sorority, but all our laughter. We even did our senior year. We did a video montage of all our humor trips. Man, they're got to be in the archives somewhere.
Sure. We'll do some research and look for those. But yeah. Well, that's great. I know I so appreciate you talking on your day off, and I hate to keep you away from the office, but for the last part of the interview, there's just a few questions. I've lifted this from another podcast called Clear and Vivid, which is there's a famous actor named Alan Alda. You probably haven't heard of him. You're a little bit young, but great actor and wonderful humanitarian, very much into science. And his podcast is called Clear and Vivid. And he asks his guests to answer 7 somewhat random questions. And I'm just going to ask you 3. And it's really just a way for people to get to know you. So can you name a favorite book or movie that inspired you?
That inspired me. Oh, actually, yes. The Alchemist. Hands down, one of the best books. If you have not read it, and I'm talking to everyone watching this, you have to read it. And what a better time. In this book, there's probably a handful, not just 1 or 2. There's a handful of hidden little messages that aren't even hidden. It's such a good book on lessons in life, on inspirations and motivations on life, love, and motivation, honestly, but in a really good, fun story. So The Alchemist, hands down, read it. Must read right now. Order it. Amazon, Kindle.
All right. That sounds great. Okay. Question number 2. You were born and raised in San Diego. Say you left town for a month, but not because of the quarantine, for some really good reason. But when you come back to San Diego, what is your go-to meal?
Oh, dang. That's so hard. Usually it's Mexican food.
Yeah. A favorite taco shop? I talked to Mike Brown, the former coach of the Lakers, who's a USD alum, and he was at a USD Toreros men's basketball game, and he said he hates to leave the game early, but he had to get to Nico's before they closed. So down the street.
Oh, that's a good one. Yep, been there a couple of times back in the day. Or JV's, that's a good one too over there. Gosh, I love all sorts of different foods. It's honestly how I'm feeling, but heck, we have a really good, if it's nearby my house, we have a good spot in Escondido called Chicken Lisa's. And funny enough, it's actually a Mexican food place, but the biggest burritos ever. Love them, and great salsa. And then, gosh, another one. There's another spot, love it, because they have the best fish tacos and the best wine margaritas. Yes, that's such a thing. And it's the combined together is the best. And that's called Cenotes Grill in San Marcos. Actually, we might pick up some dinner from there later on tonight, now that I'm talking about it.
Glad I inspired you for that. Okay, last question. It's an easy one, sort of. What is your favorite spot on the USD campus?
Ooh. My first thought was right on the Torero field and seeing all my girls in front of me, because I was a defender. I actually have to hands down say, being back on that field and seeing all my girls right in front of me before kickoff, hands down, favorite spot, favorite moment.
That's awesome.
To answer your previous question.
Okay.
Also.
That's great. That's a great memory to leave on, a great image that you've put out there. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Natalie Garcia Markuson, class of 2012. It's been wonderful to chat with you. Thanks for the wonderful work you're doing and for taking care of our most vulnerable.
No, it is honestly my pleasure. And that's why I'm a nurse. Puts a smile on my face. So I appreciate you guys talking with me as well, and stay safe, everyone. It'll be over soon.
Well, very good. For more information about the USD Alumni Association, please visit our website at alumni.sandiego.edu. There you can find our alumni-owned business directory, information on social media channels, and more. Thanks again, Natalie. Best wishes for good health to you and your loved ones. And as always, go Toreros.
Thank you, guys. Take care.